Hello, everyone. This is Matt Hughes with Softwares. Welcome to another episode of Fresh Air Fridays. And today we are going to go into a client's house that wants to do some work to the garage. They're going to show me some pictures of the garage, and I know there's going to be some challenges in there. So she's given us permission to film the process. I'm going to wear a mask, mainly because I want to make sure that I don't get any particulates into my lungs. I'm very sensitive to mold, but also out of respect for the client because we are still in a COVID quarantine right now. What we're looking at is the garage. We're trying to make this space, turn it into a garage and also a workshop slash a studio for my client. Well, some of the things that I see here that concern me, one, you can see the garage, the insulation above me. Now, because this is unconditioned space, and if you're parking in here, you're gonna have things coming out of off of the car, chemicals, things like that. Really, it's a concern for me. So what we want to do with the current energy code and also the current safety code, you have to have a fire resistant material up here. Typically, sheetrock will work. If you have conditioned space above it, 5/8 inch drywall will suffice. But I'm also worried about the air seal, because if you have a negative pressure upstairs and you have toxic chemicals in this area, you're going to suck everything from this space to the upstairs. And we can already see that there is some discoloration. You can see right above me in that area, the discoloration in the pink insulation. What that means is that there is air passing through that. So you're taking some of the toxic air from this environment and sucking it through there. So not only do you have an energy penalty because of that, because you're taking unconditioned air, bring it into a conditioned space in a non-controlled manner, you also have some fire safety and other types of issues that could affect the indoor air quality upstairs. So one of the things that's a big no-no whenever you have a garage, you want to make sure that this space is completely sealed off from the main space. Whoever the HVAC guy is here, basically cut a hole in the building envelope so any air, all those toxins from the garage, can't actually make it back into the main space. So our recommendation is to not park in the garage or ventilate it really well. Do not leave the car running for safety reasons, fire reasons, of course, but also you're exchanging all that toxic air with the house because of these holes. So some of the other things that I'm looking at, and again, this is the space over here that we are going to turn into a little bit of a workshop. First of all, you see the electrical panel over there. We need to make sure that there's always access to that. That's not behind a closet. It has proper clearance around it. A lot of people will put shelves or something like that in front of a electrical panel. That is not going to meet code. So because we're on a slab and we are in Georgia, we do need to worry about making this space a conditioned space without proper ventilation. Now I'm going to suggest an ERV for this space, but we're also going to test for radon as we're doing the construction. You can see some of these cracks in the slab. Now this was built in the 80s, so I'm not sure if this has the vapor barrier. Probably doesn't. And I'm pretty sure that it's not depressurized underneath, so if any radon gases are building up, that is taken out through the roof. So some other things that I'm looking at here when we talk about what a building envelope is where you've got your air barrier meets the thermal barrier, and as you can see, there is no air barrier. And then some of the insulation is falling down. You basically don't have that contact, so you really don't have that thermal barrier. Now, insulation only works if it's in contact. If you have that gap in that space, it is not going to work for you. Now, see the discoloration here? Now that is because this is essentially a whole house filter designed to be a thermal barrier, but what's happening here is when the air passes through this, goes to the cracks in the subfloor and into the house, any particulates, which is, it is good that it's filtering it out, but it is bad that air is having to pass through here. Rather keep any of the polluted air on the outside of the house versus on the inside. Now, one other thing, because this is going to be a studio space and we're not sure exactly how people are going to use it. Now, they could use non-toxic chemicals in here, which is fine. But if we're selling it as a studio space, we want to make sure that we do have fresh air coming into the space. So we're going to recommend an ERV. An ERV is going to take any of the stale air out, bring fresh air in, fresh oxygen in, and it's going to go through that enthalpic core, so you don't have an energy penalty, and you also don't have to worry about excess moisture building up in the space. So a couple other things that I noticed, we do have ductwork that is in this space. Now the challenge with ductwork in the garage, if you have a return that's in the garage going to the space above, What that means is it's probably not sealed 100% with mastic. So any of the carbon monoxide and other pollutants that are coming out of the car, or just toxic chemicals that are in the garage, what's going to happen is that gets sucked in through the ductwork into the house. It's basically a free delivery system for all these toxins. So one last thing that I did notice, we have this steel beam going down the middle, but it is supported by 3 2x4s, which have seen better days.
Yes.
The reason I don't necessarily like seeing 2x4s holding up steel, because at the end over here, so close to the outside, and if there's any water damage, termite damage, then essentially these are going to fail and potentially this whole area could collapse. So we're probably going to end up replacing this with some sort of steel post, and also we want to inspect to make sure that there actually is a footing here. A lot of times people will pour a slab. This should be a monolithic slab, but based on some of the cracks and stuff that I've seen here, not sure how thick it is, and so make sure that there's a footing below here. So one last thing I do want to point out, I don't see any waterproofing out here. I do see a crack in the foundation. So if we're going to make this garage conditioned space, and also to make sure put finishes in there, we need to make sure that we take care of all the moisture from the outside. So we are going to recommend that we do some waterproofing out here. Looks like there is a little bit of drainage. They've got a collection point right here. We want to make sure that we have all this anywhere we're going to have conditioned space. That way we divert all this away. And again, this is not that deep. We're only looking at 3 to 4 feet deep right here. So it looks like this might be, it's going to be pretty easy to deal with. Something else I just noticed, we've got this downspout. It is landing on the driveway, but unfortunately the driveway does have cracks in it. So usually these cracks are compounded by water moving them, over the decades. And what's happening is like the water's hitting here and basically finding its way to the cracks, potentially eroding some of the soil out from underneath. So what we recommend here, and this is what we do standard in all of our houses, is we either have all these connecting to a cistern if it's new construction, and we're doing some projects right now where we do have a cistern collecting all the gutters. If you don't have a cistern, you're looking at a retrofit, try to at least put an extension on here where you're diverting the water at least 5 feet away from the foundation. I just want to go over quickly why I wore a mask to this job site. First of all, it's for my client safety. Whenever you're working with or going into environments where you potentially have at-risk people, I want to make sure that I am wearing a safe mask. And again, not just a mask to signal that I care about wearing a mask, but a mask that actually is going to work and make a difference. Otherwise, I might as well just go in without a mask, because that's a waste of time. But also, the other reason is I wear it for my safety as well. A lot of times I go into a toxic environment, haven't been in that environment before, especially if I'm going into a space that is not remodeled yet. And sometimes there's things in there that I don't want to breathe. Sometimes there's dust, PM 2.5, mold, lots of different things within these spaces. But I also want to show, if I am going to wear a mask, I've got this particular mask on right now. You can hear that I'm breathing just fine. If I take it off, I sound the same. And the reason that I like this one is it does breathe easy. I've had lots of masks that I've tried out before. I'm choking, I'm suffocating. I got lots of comments on this video that I did about countertops, and people were like, why are you wearing a mask? And again, that was like the first day after the pandemic. So just, again, the responsible thing, if I was interviewing somebody, then 5 feet was to wear that mask. Now, these are good for everyday use. They're designed to wear up to 8 hours. So if I'm doing yard work, working on the house, or an environment where there's lots of dust, this is my choice for a mask. If you guys want to get one yourself, go to the link in the description below, type in Sawhorse, you'll get a 25% discount off of the retail on this mask.